Hi, Reverend Sharon here with a message for you this week from Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing. This is the third week in a season of nonviolence, and this week we're looking at honoring the environment. But this day is also a very special day because it's Valentine's Day, a day that we set aside to celebrate love. And as we're in this season of social distancing, I want to share with you a concept that might help you feel a little bit better about maybe not being physically with the ones that you love. Someone does not need to be standing before us in order for us to love them. Right? We can love anybody. They don't have to be physically present. And when we allow ourselves to feel that love, in spite of the physical presence of somebody, just to feel that moving through our heart and soul, that deep, sincere love, we actually become a participant in our soul's development. We get to vibrate on that level of love. We get to experience love that can vibrate through every cell of our body and out into the world and raise the whole world into that greater sense of feeling the love, feeling the peace, feeling the harmony. So, in line with the invisibility of love, I would like to give you an invisible gift. And it's invisible simply because you can't see it, but hopefully you will experience it. I was out shopping the other day. I love to go through thrift stores, and I found this really interesting album. It was called The Sounds That Wasps Make. So I picked it up. I was very curious about this. Maybe it'd be a good meditation song or whatever. And so I took it home, put it on the Victrola record player. And as I was listening to it, I thought, well, that doesn't sound like wasp. And then I looked at the label on it, and I see that I was playing the B side, BEE. Time for you to laugh. Have a little chuckle anyway for that invisible Valentine's gift. I hope it brought a smile or maybe one of those fun groans from you in this. Well, to set the tone for today, as it is Valentine's Day, I'd just like to share with you a song from Daniel Naiman. It's called Love is My Decision. What a great reminder that it's always our decision to love, to be the love, to feel the love. Feel free to sing along. Always our decision to love. Oh, there we go. Back with you. Well, this is part of our 64 days of nonviolence. It's a time that's marked by the anniversary of the assassination of Gandhi and the assassination of Martin Luther King. And it's interesting, this season also overlaps over Lent, which is our lead up to Easter, that transformational time in our spiritual journey each year. And of course, this coming Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. It's a time that last 40 days of Lent leading up to Easter begins, and Tuesday is Fat Tuesday. So go out and get your Patskis, that's how you say them, last time, and until next year. So last week, left you with a spiritual practice. Let me see, I have that up here. Here we go. Here we go. Our spiritual practice for last week in the season nonviolence was about respecting ourselves and others. Of course, we know that peace always begins with ourselves. Nonviolence begins with us first. And once we have that within ourselves, then we can respect others in the same way. So we're looking at respecting ourselves and affirming others, avoiding uncaring criticism, hateful words, physical attacks, and self-destructive behavior. And that's a lot of work to be aware of. We may not think of ourselves as violent people, but yet some of the words that we use, the things that we say, the thoughts that we think may not always be the most loving, the most skilled approaches to our world. And we know that our thoughts send out that vibration, that invisible vibration, just like our love sends out that invisible vibration. Last week also, I talked to you about himsa, this wonderful word that's about really being the essence of nonviolence, lacking any desire to be violent, to be retaliatory in any way. In Hindu scripture, this is one of the highest laws. And maybe affirm with me, I renounce all thoughts and acts of violence. I express the peace of God as I walk and work in ways of gentleness. Walk and work in ways of gentleness. This means not only our actions, but our thoughts, our attitude towards the world and others around us, as well as ourselves, being gentle with ourselves in all things. So this week I wanted to give you another word, which I've been practicing pronouncing, and I'm still having a little difficulty with it. Satyagraha. Anyway, you can read it and excuse my mispronunciation of that. And this Satyagraha is a private affair that begins with the human heart. So think of your soul development being in this state. And what Mahatma Gandhi said is that it is the acid test of nonviolence, that in a nonviolent conflict, there is no rancor left behind, and in the end, the enemies are converted into friends. And I was talking with a friend of mine, Jane Simmons, and she'd just been through a workshop, and they were talking about the spiral dynamics of how we come together. And there are those with whom we don't agree. At first, she thought she would pick out somebody easy, a politician that she didn't agree with. But then she realized that within her own family, there was a sister-in-law that had different political views with her, and the conversations always got very heated. They just weren't pleasant. And so in this process, she worked through what they did have in common, what they loved in common. And both of them had this tremendous love of family. And with that acknowledgement that there was this tremendous love of family, she was able to set aside any rancor in her heart. Now, may not affect the conversations, it may not change the dynamics when they're together, but knowing that there is this common love, this common shared interest, allows her to bring her sister-in-law back into her heart and to really embrace the family in its wholeness. So that is this soul force of being able to understand that we have more in common than we have in differences. And these lessons come to us in all different ways. I had a couple interesting lessons in the last week or two, and it was with animals. There was 2 bats that showed up and a woodpecker. One bat was a bat that we found here in the Unity building downstairs. Diane Reck found it when she was cleaning down there. And Jerry Padani was great. He was able to capture it in a bucket and laid it and took it outside, in which case nature took its course and took the bat away. So one bat, maybe you don't notice too much. But then yesterday, I went downstairs to put the wash into the dryer, and I thought there was a pile of leaves in my utility sink. And then it raised its little head and looked at me, and it was a bat. I didn't quite know what to do. And I have to admit, I was a little bit intimidated. I just didn't know what to do with it. So later that night, my wife and I went downstairs to get the bat safely into a container and take it outside and set it free. And when we went down there, the bat had left. We don't know where it went, but we wished it on its way. But it makes you start thinking about, what does this bat mean? And a bat, metaphysically, is a sign of transition and initiation. And now I see how fitting it was that I should see a couple bats, because we're going through a whole new time of transition into this new building, this new way of being. And it was like the initiation. This is really happening. We are really growing into this new way of being Unity Spiritual Center in Lansing. And then I went outside to check on the animals. And what did I see on the ground but a dead woodpecker? Beautiful woodpecker. And its color was, because it's so cold, it was frozen, and its color was perfect. Of course, all things have their life cycle and come to an end. But then I got curious, okay, that this woodpecker would show up for me. And a woodpecker, its red hair, its red head kind of reminds us of our intellect, about putting energy up into our head, that intellectual stimulation. And the black and white, think about it. When things are black and white, it tells us that we really need to see all the issues clearly, the different decisions that need to be made right now. And I thought it was very fitting for all the things that we are going through here with the new building, trying to figure things out. And it's all a learning curve. It's all new. And to be able to see each little piece clearly and how it all fits together. So a time of transition, a time of initiation, at a time of getting clarity step by step as we go through this with our intellect and also with spirit speaking to us each in its own individual way. So this week in the season on violence, I want to talk about nonviolence towards nature. That how can we respect nature, to treat the environment and all living things with respect and care, even when it makes us nervous, makes us uncomfortable, or even makes us sad, like seeing that sad woodpecker. It's just amazing. It's like Spirit is always speaking to us through so many things, not just the Bible, not just holy books, not just inspirational books, but everything around us is Spirit talking to us, speaking to our heart in so many different ways. One of my favorite artists is Jim Warren, and he does these incredible paintings. This one here where somebody is trying to put all their garbage and stuff, hide it in the water, and there's somebody peeking at him. That we really can't hide the abuses that we put on our planet, but that we put on nature. That it is seen, even if it's only at a vibrational level, that all that we do on our planet is part of the oneness we talk about, oneness with all living things, oneness with God is part of our mission statement. So I call this spiritual ecology because it's not just about the planet, but it's on the multiple levels of being. As above, so below, as below, so above, that we see the microcosm and the macrocosm of all things, that it truly is all interconnected. So ecology itself is just the science of the relationships between organisms and their environment, how things interrelate. This is the ecology of things. But we understand that it's not just the physical environment, but it's also our emotional and spiritual environment, because there is not truly a separation. Our eyes may see a separation. Intellectually, we may separate these out, but it's all really on this wonderful continuum. And here's something else. We know that everything starts in divine mind first, and then into our mind and into manifestation. So the spiritual environment always precedes the physical. What is happening with us spiritually then shows up in the world in which we live. So if there's a physical problem there, it's because there's some kind of spiritual problem behind it, something that we have not made peace with, something that we have not found harmony with, something where we need to do some work. Do you know, many years ago when the Europeans, the white man, came to the United States, found this new strange land. The relationships between man and the land here is obviously in such perfect balance. And it wasn't by chance, but it was because of right relationships. They related to nature on the physical and the spiritual level. Starting with the spiritual level, they had a spiritual connection. Our native or indigenous people had a spiritual connection with everything around them. Wow. In Buddhism, we call it mindfulness, but this was the way that they lived. It was not something they learned to do as mindfulness. They grew up understanding that their life was dependent on all the life around them. And the life around them was dependent also on their interaction with it. And as we have grown, as we have, quote, evolved, very often we find ourselves fighting with nature instead of working with nature. There's almost an attitude of not stewardship, but almost bossiness or overcoming, being stronger than nature, that we can stop the flooding, or we can stop the weather, or we can stop whatever it is, that we are stronger than nature. Where things are so much more harmonious, we can find ways to work with nature, to be one with it, to be in that flow. Think of if you're out floating on the ocean and you float with the waves. Oh, isn't that a wonderful feeling? But think if you try to stand there and the waves hit against you and you are going to be that solid force and not give to it. It will knock you over. When you're riding with the waves, you get to float and enjoy the movement, being one with it. That's just like, if you take that as a micro level, think of it on the macrocosm, that every time we stand to be the force against nature, it is not to our advantage or to nature's advantage. So today I want to talk to you about some ways we could really express nonviolence towards nature. In nature, I'm talking about the plants, the animals, the planet, our air, our water, all of that. When we start respecting ourselves and respecting others, it's only natural that we really want to co-create a nonviolent world that only comes when we can also respect nature. So our commitment to nonviolence extends to all creation. We honor and respect the earth that sustains our lives. I mean, where would we be if we didn't have this earth to stand on? Jacob Rokowski, a British scientist, said, man masters nature not by force, but by understanding. Nature has incredible systems of flow and timing, and it always seeks to bring a balance. That's why we have weather, because the different temperatures in the atmosphere are always seeking to even each other out. And when they don't, that is what creates the storms. So we can really practice nonviolence and respect for Earth by making good use of her resources. Think of the ripple effect we create just by doing an act of kindness towards another. And multiply that when we can do an act of kindness towards this planet who has been so kind as to allow us to live on it, allow us to make this our home. Now, Einstein said there are only two ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle, and the other is if everything is. And it doesn't take much to convince me in looking around how everything is a miracle. From the bulbs that are under this frozen ground right now, ready to spring forth with fragrance and color when spring comes, to the beautiful snow itself coming down. It all is a miracle, every snowflake being individual and unique, just like you and I are each individual and unique. So today, just to allow ourselves to appreciate the earth's bounty. Even to appreciate all those that work with earth to make the earth's bounty available to us, our essential workers in the grocery stores, the truck drivers, the farmers, all those that work with the earth so that we can enjoy it and we can sustain ourselves, we can sustain our own life. So as we extend our commitment to nonviolence to all creation, we can respect nature by treating the environment and all living things with respect and care. Granted, when we saw the bat, we could have called animal control, and under their rules, and understandably, they need to take the animal and test it for rabies, just in case. And, and we decided, in both cases, we made a choice to safely capture the animal and to take it outside. Environmentalist John Muir, you may have read some of his books or heard of him, he said, everyone needs beauty as well as bread. Isn't it wonderful that nature supplies us both? He says we need places to play in and to pray in, where nature may heal and cheer and give strength to our body and soul. How could we help but find greater ways to create peace in our relationship with this planet and all the life form on it? How could we possibly think of anything else but to protect those beautiful places where we have the beauty that also supplies us with the bread to nourish our body, nourishing our soul, our mind, and our body. Places to pray in and places to pray in. And a kind of a third way to look at nonviolence towards nature, as we make this commitment to all creation, to be nonviolent towards all creation, is to look at the different components and what we might do in each area. For example, waste. I do my best to recycle. I do my best to reduce plastic. And sometimes people say, well, what difference does it make if you didn't use that disposable straw today? Each little thing makes a difference. Each little effort that we make on our part collectively makes a difference. First in consciousness. Remember, it all starts in mind and in spirit. If we have that intention, that goes a long way to raising the intention of all the other living forms that we're sharing this planet with. Sidney Smith, who was a writer and cleric, he said, it's the greatest of all mistakes to do nothing because you can only do a little. But if each of us does a little, what a difference it makes. I see the great changes going on in the building here as we tidy up and clean and go through all kinds of things. And I have to stop just for a moment because there's a lot of bangs going on outside. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I think maybe somebody's setting off fireworks. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe they're getting ready for Ash Wednesday. So, where was I? Yes, talking about that whole thing that even though we can only do a little, there's no reason not to do it. Every little bit counts. So we can recycle to reduce waste. We can conserve our energy and all the water that we use. The other way we can really be nonviolent towards the earth is our relationship with animals. Yeah, Chief Seattle, he was just so insightful, and he wrote, "What is man without beast? If all beasts were gone, men would die from a great loneliness of spirit. For whatever happens to the beast soon happens to man. All things are connected." So the littlest kindness we show to the tiniest animal adds to that whole attitude of nonviolence between us and this whole planet, all the nature that exists around us. And then, of course, the plants, even the plants that, even in the winter, plants bring me such joy. I look out back and see all the pine trees covered with snow, and they're so beautiful. They just make my soul smile. Gandhi said, if we forget how to dig the earth and tend to the soil, we forget ourselves. And all of us, I think, at some time in our life have had that joy of planting a seed in the earth, of touching the earth, of feeling it in our hands. And in the winter, maybe that's some of the sadness we get in this cold time of year, that we can't get into the soil and nurture those plants that are growing. Just really appreciate life in its many forms, from the rock, which is a very slow form of life, to the fast growing plants as the hyacinths, the tulips will burst in a few more weeks. Oh, it's just an incredible planet. And we get to take care of it. We get to love it. We get to enjoy it. We get to have that place where we can play and pray in everything that we do. Gandhi left us a legacy. Well, he left us a lot of legacies for the things that he said. But one of the things that's really stuck with me for today was, we know the earth. We are strangers to heaven within us. And this whole work is trying to connect the idea that heaven within us, that state of consciousness, with the earth, but we live within the outer. He said that it is my firm belief that it is love that sustains the earth. Our love of each other, love of this entire planet and all the life forms. There is only life where there is love. There is only life where there is love. Life without love is death. Hatred ever kills. Love never dies. Such is the vast difference between the two. Isn't that just beautiful? I mean, Gandhi, his insights were so powerful, so relevant, no matter what year it is. I mean, 100 years ago, and it's still relevant to us today. Well, since it is Valentine's Day, I want to talk about, I missed something there, a very special gift. I'm just going to go back here a minute, and I'm just going to share this story with you. There's a story that Krishna, this is in the Hindu tradition, Krishna came to his people and said, here, I have a very special gift for you, a gift of immortality. Just reach out and take it. And they said to him, but we can't. Our hands are full of mangoes, these beautiful mangoes. He goes, well, let go of the mangoes and let me give you this gift. And they said, okay, Lord Krishna, why don't you give us a gift first and then we'll throw away the mangoes? Well, think of it for ourselves. What are we waiting for God to give us before we're willing to throw away our mangoes? What are we waiting for before we're willing to embrace the life of this planet, of all of nature, the plants, the air, the water? What are we holding on to? Is it a righteous attitude? Are our hands filled with anger or pride or resentment or judgment? What are we holding in our hands that makes us unwilling to reach out to others? Reach out to our plants, our animals, the earth, all the gifts that God is giving to us. What is it that is filling our hands instead of peace and love? So with that, I'd like to share a spiritual practice for this coming week. Consciously honor nature this week. How can you do that? Is there a way you could honor the air, the water? Maybe take a little shorter shower. Honor the earth, the plants, the animals. Maybe it's just a matter of consciously feeling love for those many gifts that are given to us, even though our hands still may be holding some of our own favorite mangoes, if you will. So have some fun this week and stretch yourself just a little bit to consciously honor nature this week in finding more nonviolent ways that we can be together in this planet. I want to take a moment to thank you for supporting this work. Some of you donate electronically on our website by clicking donate or mailing checks to our new address at Washington Road. And also know that all the gifts that come in, part of this, we are a tithing community, and we are sharing our tithes with the Firecracker Foundation, who does just such a great job supporting children who have been through sexual abuse and Yeah, they just are very supportive of our young people and help them to heal. I also like to just take a moment now to celebrate our own individual prosperity, because you and I have both been gifted with so many things this week. I don't know the specifics, but I know you have felt the invisible love from someone, or perhaps from the world itself. Maybe you were gifted with a magnificent sunrise or sunset, or seeing a rabbit run across the snow. Maybe you were gifted with just one of those wonderful thoughts of somebody who you haven't seen for a while is not there physically with you. Maybe they're in heaven, maybe they're in another place on earth, but something about that warmed your heart. So, whatever that prosperity is for you, however you've been prospered this week, I invite you just to take a moment and feel that joy, the bounty that has been given to you, even if it's for the very breath you're taking right now. And we bless it together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I praise, give thanks, and am glad. Thank you, friends, for joining me for this segment. And know that Unity is available on demand. You can watch us, binge watch us one after the other, or you can watch us in segments as it fits into your schedule. And if you're watching us Sunday at 10:30, we have a live Zoom fellowship time. Just bring your own coffee and we'll wish each other a happy Valentine's Day. God bless. And we'll just complete with a little song. Our traditional song of I Choose Love. What else would we choose on a day like today?